So it's kind of an interesting feeling. So it doesn't matter how many subscribers I have. What matters is the impact that I have on just a few individual people. So it's not about the absolute numbers. It's all about the quality numbers. So I'm not sure whether you can see my screen on whether you can see whiteboard behind me or not. It could be kind of reversed, but when I was checking out the repeat, I think it should be normal right now. It's live, it's not pre-recorded, guys. So I decided to do this kind of quick master class on the 3 hacks that I use to master Chinese characters. So basically, yeah. So my girlfriend's watching now. 자기야 잘 보여? 지금 여기 잘 보여? I'm not sure whether it's reversed or not, so I'm asking her. So as you can see here, it's actually probably it would be the very first hack that I'm using to teach my clients Chinese characters. So Chinese language. So basically, let's just start normally. So first of all, why should you listen to me? Many people be like, yeah, I saw your videos here and there, and basically I saw you speaking Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Russian, English, or whatever. So just a few words about me. Basically, shooting those videos is not my main thing, as you might have noticed. I haven't published new videos in during the last 4 months. So I'm actually coaching people from all around the world, and I've created, as for now, 8 different language programs. I myself speak 5 languages, but I created programs for languages such as Vietnamese, Spanish, German, Russian, English, Korean, Chinese, Japanese. The list can go on and on. In total, there are 8 languages, and the list of languages is growing. So we've been working with major languages, and basically what I found out was that there are actually same patterns for mastering any language. And in this case, I'm going to be talking about Chinese. So I've been working with clients from 20 to 30 countries. The list is growing from all around the world. I've been personally coaching people from 20 countries, and I've been running a lot of language programs recently and helping people to get astonishing results in Chinese and other languages without even going to those countries. My personal story, I mean, people are like, well, you live in Asia, that's why you speak Chinese. You lived in China, that's why you speak Chinese. You live in, right now I'm in Korea. People are like, well, you live in those countries, that's why you speak those languages. Well, it's actually just partially true, because so you become native, fluent after living in those countries, right? It is an advantage. However, one of the things that should be mentioned here is that basically I became conversational in Chinese before I went to China. So I was placed already in an intermediate group when I was learning Chinese in China. On my first day, I took a test and I could already write hundreds of characters. I wasn't fluent when I came to China for the first time, but I could hold a simple conversation, right? So another thing, Korean, I mean, I became fluent in conversational Korean, not in professional, but fluent in daily Korean before I started living in Korea. And I can speak Japanese right now. I can hold hours and hours of conversations. I mean, when I take Japanese classes, I don't use English at all. I can read Japanese, write Japanese, and I've never lived in Japan. The longest time I stayed there was for a week. So yeah, if you want to basically, let me change it a little bit so that you can see. So yeah, so the thing that I'm saying is that yes, I did have an advantage of living in those countries, but I didn't start living in those countries and master the language after it. I started living in those countries because I learned the language, right? So I can, let's say, go to Japan if I want, and I can find friends there, find business work opportunities because I speak Japanese, and the same goes for other languages. So all right, so basically now we're going to be talking about the 3 hacks to master Chinese characters. And Chinese characters is kind of the key to mastering not only Chinese language, funny enough, but also Japanese. Some of the principles are actually applicable to Japanese language as well. And some of you might know that Korean language, although it has alphabet, but 60+% as far as I know of Korean words, percentage-wise, they are based on characters. So basically, if you learn Korean after Chinese, it's much easier, although those languages are completely different. They're in different language groups linguistically, as well as Japanese. So, but when you learn Chinese, it will open a lot of doors for you, not only in terms of learning other languages such as Japanese and Korean, but also, yeah, there are so many reasons why some people choose to learn Chinese. Some people are like, well, I have a lot of clients who are Chinese. I'm working with the Chinese suppliers, or others are like, I'm a flight attendant, so I want to learn Chinese to basically connect with people and go to China and just make Chinese friends. So some people have more like business goals with learning the language, others social goals. Other people have like personal life goals. They want to relate their life with China and stuff like this. So common myth that people have about learning Chinese, by the way, is that if you live in China, basically Chinese language automatically downloads itself into your head. So I had one of the clients, his name is Corey, and he lived in China. He's from France. He lived in China for 5 years, and he didn't learn Chinese, and then he enrolled into my program and learned Chinese and became conversational. Now he's fluent, I guess. But I mean, when he left the program, he already became conversational. So basically, most of the expats in China, most of the foreigners, they come to China, work as English teachers, or work on some jobs related to this. Most of them work as English teachers, I guess. But basically, they don't learn Chinese because everybody speaks English to them. They live in the foreigner bubble. It's very easy to find foreigner bubbles in Korea. I mean, most expats in Korea they never learn Korean. I mean, there are a lot of cases I can talk about, but the common misconception I personally had back in the days was that, well, he lived in China for 5 years, that's why he speaks Chinese. So this is what I was thinking about. So yeah, so this is kind of the myth that people have about learning languages in general. And about Chinese in particular, right? So most people, most experts, they actually never learn the language, even on a conversational, even on an intermediate level. So this is what happens. All right, so let's get to the topic. So what are the 3 hacks that I'm teaching my clients from 20 plus countries to master Chinese, not only on a conversational level, but on a fluent level, right? So I have clients who've never been to China. They can read, write, listen, understand, and speak Chinese, and they finish like 6 textbooks in like 9 months. And Chinese people are like, how long have you lived in China? They're like, I never lived in China. Just last testimonial from one of my clients whose name is Sean. So it's kind of crazy. They can have a small talk with Chinese people. They're like, well, you can type, you can read Chinese. How long did you stay in China? Did you study in China? No, I didn't. So okay, so let's go. So the first thing that you need to know is that it's very basic, but nobody teaches that for some reason. Some people do teach that, and some people don't. If you go to like an average cheap class with a native teacher, I don't think they would teach that, because many people told me, many clients told me that they basically didn't even learn characters after learning with the teacher for 1 year. Basically, what we're going to be talking about is the first thing. By the way, before I start, one last thing. There is a link in the description of this page. Go to my page if you want to enroll into my new Chinese group coaching. There are pre-recorded lessons. There is a weekly coaching session with me personally. So if you want to enroll, click the link, register, leave your contact information, and basically apply. Try to go through application process. It's very short, but yeah, so basically there are limited spots because we cannot like accept unlimited people right now physically, right, software wise. And if somebody asks a question or has a pronunciation problem, this is why basically there should be a limited number of people. There cannot be like 100 people in the group. So all right, let's start. The very first thing that you can see, who knows what does this thing mean? Like, who looks here at this whiteboard? And in the chat, guys, so that you know it's not pre-recorded. Some people are like, "Oh, is it pre-recorded?" Like something. I have to prove. No, it's not, because I'm reading your comments. So here on this whiteboard, what do you see? Who knows what do you see? And what is the thing that what is the first hack that I'm going to be talking about? Because it's I use it to explain to my clients before. What is this thing on the whiteboard? What is the first hack? Who knows it? The very first one. Number 1, smart learning. How do you memorize Chinese characters? How do you memorize thousands of them? I'm looking for people in the chat who are familiar with the topic. I believe there will be. I believe there will be somebody familiar with the topic when they watch it on repeat. Let me know. Let me know what does it mean. What am I trying to explain here? What am I trying to explain? So actually this part, I think, radicals. Exactly. All right. So somebody, Battle Bear said radicals. All right. So radicals. How many radicals are there in Chinese language? Let me know, guys. How many radicals? Enki. No, it's not Enki. How many radicals are in Chinese language? Let me know. How many radicals are in Chinese language? How many radicals? Who knows? Who knows? Please don't delete this live stream. Gotta sleep now. El Rusito, Russian YouTuber from Mexico, fluent in Spanish. I remember you, bro. I will not delete this live stream. Let me know. It probably goes. Who knows? I learned Japanese. By the way, save for Japanese. Kanji radicals. 214 radicals. All right. So, Mikhail is a lover. Okay. 오랜만이에요. 오랜만입니다. Okay, so these are the 214 Chinese radicals that I'm going to be talking about, right? So 214 Chinese radicals. There are 214 Chinese radicals that you need to memorize for learning Chinese characters. This is the most boring task that you'll need to go through to learn Chinese at the very beginning, but it will accelerate your progress and make you not only memorize thousands of characters easier, 10x easier, 100x easier, it's like exponential growth, but also understand Chinese language on a new level. So basically, radical, what is a Chinese radical? Chinese radical is a part of Chinese characters, which is responsible for meaning of this character. It does not always perfectly show what is the meaning. So for example, sometimes the radical shows hand, but it's this thing like you don't understand how is it related to hand, for example, right? Or how is it related to sun? Or how is it related to water sometimes, or fire, right? So basically, but there are 214 simple Chinese radicals, like radical for heart, for example. It goes to characters which are responsible for emotions. Radical for fire goes to characters which signify the words like hot or something like this. Boil something, radical for fire. So basically there are so many radicals. Like for example, radical for fire. So for example, you can say like radical for fire looks like this. Radical for heart looks like this. This part, sorry. I'm not sure whether you can see or not, but for example, radical for, I don't know, which one should we write? Radical for person, for example, the easiest one here looks like this. So there are a lot of radicals that you need to know. One thing to know, sometimes those radicals, they can be, mostly they're just independent characters as well. And sometimes, yeah, they're independent characters basically. So 214 radicals, there can serve as a radical, as a part of the character, and oftentimes as a character, as an independent character itself. So for example, this radical for fire, it's a radical and the character itself. By the way, I'm not it's not the correct kind of, so probably I'm not sure how it shows up on the screen, but radical for heart, for example, it is a character and it can be a radical, a part of the character. So why do we learn radicals? Because when we look at the character that we don't know, we can spot the radical inside the character and we can guess what this character could be related to. So for example, if they see the radical for water on the left of the character, so radical for water, it will look like this. So and then the rest of the character will be something here. But the radical for water is here, right? And you can guess, oh, okay, so this character might be related to water, right? Or you see the radical for ice on the left. It's just two strokes. It's very easy to memorize. And you're like, oh, okay, something related to ice. Actually, character of ice has this radical of ice. Okay, so, or something fire. For example, when fire is at the bottom of the character, it looks like this. It's 4 strokes, right? It's 4 strokes. So, and something, and the rest of the character, something is here, right? Something is here. So you don't know the character, you can guess the meaning based on the radical, right? First thing, guessing. Second thing, memorizing. So when you learn something new, let's say there are words for push and pull in Chinese, and both of them have radical for hand. This is how it looks like. Some part here, right? And then the radical for hand looks like this. So basically there are different radicals. Google 214 Chinese radicals and learn them, and they will help you to memorize characters better, because you'll be like, oh, this is a new character, but I know the radicals. So there will always be something familiar in the thing that you're learning. Second, it will help you to guess the meaning of the characters you don't know. Third thing, bonus thing, for some of you who are learning Japanese, same thing, 214 kanji radicals. 214 kanji radicals is absolutely the same thing. So now we're going to be talking about how to learn the radicals and what should you be looking at. So the very first thing that you should be looking at when learning radicals is the position of the radical and the version of this radical. So basically the very first thing is when you learn radical, right? So we're talking about radicals now. So radicals, right? So the very first thing is you need to know how it looks like, obviously, and it's better to learn how to write it, right? So just how it looks like. So for example, the main writing of a character, like of a radical, let's say fire, right? Let's say person. Let's take person is the easiest one. So it's like the person, right? The radical for person is like main writing of it. So you need to know how it looks like. The very first thing. The second thing, you need to know the translation. So how it looks like. First thing, how it looks like. How it looks like, and the second thing. The meaning of it. The meaning of it. So this is what you need to know when it comes to learning Chinese radicals, right? How it looks like and the meaning, right? So, oh, it looks like this, it means person. Easy as hell, right? It's very easy. What is the second thing that you need to know? Is the different versions of it when it's inside the character. So for example, this radical for person, when it's on the left, it's very basic, it looks like this when it's on the left. So, and the third thing is kind of optional, because not every radical can serve as an independent word, but it's very good if you know the pronunciation. If you know the pronunciation of this radical, right? So for example, this one is ren, right? If you know the original pronunciation of this radical. So but the critical thing here that you need to know, the most difficult part of radicals is their position in the character. And this is what I'm going to be talking about now. There are three main positions of a radical in the character. Three main positions, guys. Three main positions. So we have a character. I will just signify it as a square. We have a character, right? So we have a character, and basically there are different positions that radical can have in the character, and sometimes radical is in the middle, and it can be on the right as well. But mostly in most cases, radical is either on top, or on the left, or on the bottom. Top, left, bottom. Top, left, bottom. There are three main positions, right? And radical, like for example, radical for fire, it can be on the left or it can be on the bottom. So it also depends on the situation where it's used, right? So this is kind of the main thing. So what you need to do is that you need to open the list of 214 Chinese radicals, and you need to click on the radical and see the different examples when this radical is used. Like for example, the radical of fire, when it's on the bottom, it looks like this. When it's on the left, it might look like this, right? The radical for grass, when it's on the top, it looks like this, when it's on the top of the character. So the radical for person, we already saw it. It looks like, I'll just change this part. Yeah, it looks like this when it's on the left. So there are different situations that you have. Again, the position number, let's signify the position number 1, position number 2, and position number 3. All right, so to review what we've just learned, guys, you need to learn 214 Chinese radicals. It's the homework for you. First of all, what you need to know is how it looks like. It's better if you know how to write it. right? So how it looks like, how to write it. The pronunciation and translation of it. And the most important thing, the hardest thing is the position in the character and how it looks like in the character, right? So this is the hardest thing. So again, by the way, let me repeat once again, if you want to join my weekly Chinese group coaching, it's a 6-month program. You go from zero to conversational Chinese. We practice every week. Click the link in the description. Register. It's a limited group with limited number of members. So basically click the link. If you're able to enroll, if there are spots left, you can just enroll. So basically if it's open, you can enroll. If you just go through the registration process, it means that it works, right? If it doesn't, then probably you might join the waiting list or something. So 1, 2, 3, 3 positions of radicals in the character, right? So then we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to the things that I was talking about, right? Radical shows the meaning. What is the second part of the character that you need to be aware of? Guys, let me know in comments what is the second part of the character that you need to be aware of. So we talked about the radical, right? But what is the second part? Because some people can get confused. Well, characters is like very complex thing. There is a radical. What about the rest? Who knows what? How do you call the thing which is the second thing? How do you call it? How do you call the second thing? What is the second thing here, which is the second part of the character? So we have a radical and strokes. No, strokes is just what character consists of in terms of writing. I'm waiting, guys. What is the second part? Let me know. Let me know what is the second part. So we have a radical and it's reading here. You can probably read it. So the second, probably the last stream is kind of slow, but the second part of the character, I think somebody who knew about the radicals. The second part is called phonetic. It's called phonetic, right? So, and who knows what is phonetic responsible for? So radical is responsible for the meaning. And the question is, what is phonetic responsible for? What do you think? What is phonetic responsible for? I'll be waiting for answers in the chat. And just trying to get to change the this sound. Great. Okay, somebody said, let me see. Okay, Julian Metzger said the sound. Okay, so the question, should you learn phonetics or not? It's responsible for the intonation. Sound, just pinyin, right? Pinyin is how is the representation of the sound of Chinese characters, right? So pinyin, by the way, we learn pinyin at the very beginning of our course. It takes, I think, 1 week to learn, 1 to 2 weeks. I mean, pronunciation is built over time. First month is mostly focused on pronunciation. But so yes, it's but you don't need to learn phonetics. There are different types of phonetics, and you don't need to learn them, right? So what Chinese character consists of is radical, it shows the meaning, so it's here, and phonetic, it shows the sound. It shows the sound. Another thing that some of you guys probably don't know at this point, let me just change it and show it to you because I don't have a space here, is that Chinese language has 4 tones, right? So every character, I don't have space here. So Chinese character has 4 tones. The first tone, I'll just show you with the marker, is a flat tone, it's robotic tone, right? The first tone, it's like this, right? I call it robotic. Second tone, I call it a rising tone. Basically, it's a question intonation tone, right? So like this. Third tone is it goes down and then goes up. And the fourth tone is the agreeableness tone. It's like this. It's actually pretty hard when you start learning Chinese. But again, what is the first tone? I call it robotic. It's easy to memorize. Hello, hello, like this. Right? Second tone, question intonation. What? Like this. Third tone, you can call it like a check mark tone, like it goes down and then goes up. So it's ah, like this, right? And the fourth tone is agreeableness tone, is ah, tui, right? So it's correct. So basically 4 tones. And pinyin part, like I said, if you want to learn, check out whether you can apply for my group. The link is in the description. So basically we'll learn pinyin. Pinyin is very easy to learn. It's the first month we learn. It's a 6-month program, but during the first month you mostly learn like basics like this and pinyin as well. But you can already, after the first months, hold like a 3-minute conversation. So yeah, so basically this is the very first hack that I talked about to mastering Chinese characters. It's about mastering radicals. 214 radicals. I'm learning Thai language and it has the same tone and a falling tone. So how many? I think are there more tones in Thai? I think it's 7 or 8 tones or something. Somebody said, yeah, Thai language is actually very difficult because of that, right? Because of so many tones. So what is the second hack that I'm going to be talking about? I guess you won't be able to guess it. 5 tones. Oh, okay, Thai language is 5 tones. Okay, so I guess you won't be able to guess it. There is a story. Back in the days when I was learning Chinese by myself, back in Russia, just by myself completely, wasted so much time really. And okay, so basically the most important thing was that my uncle actually is native, fluent, professional, like fluent beyond like imagination in Chinese. And he, I got a very good advice from him. He actually told me these 2 things. So first thing he was like, do you learn radicals? Do you know radicals? I was like, yes. And he was like, also the second thing he told me, most Chinese words consist of 2 or more characters. Most Chinese words, complex words, right? So of course that 1 character words, but complex words that we mostly struggle with, right? So the hack is to translate each character in a word. Like for example, there is a word which is called, let me write it here so you can see. Man, I practice my writing when I'm learning Japanese now. Every week we have writing. So so there is, for example, there is a word which is called 见面. 见面, it means to see somebody, right? So basically to meet somebody, 见面. And so this 见面, it's basically, it consists of 2 characters, right? So the first character, it means to see. The second character, it means face, right? It means face. And if you deconstruct it, you can memorize it much faster than if you just memorize it as a word, you know, as a whole, right? So basically, 见, it means to see, like to see with your eyes, right? So this one is 见. The pinyin would look like this. And this one is 面. The pinyin would look like this, right? So 见面. People are like, 见面, to meet, 见面, to meet. And they just like cram the whole word. But what does it consist? What does it actually consist of? So this 见, right? So this 见, it means to see. 面, it means face. 面 has different meanings as like noodles, flour, and so on and so forth. But in this case, 面, it means to face. So see face means to meet somebody, right? So this is the second hack of learning and memorizing thousands and thousands of Chinese characters, because characters is the key to you becoming actually fluent. People are like, well, can I become fluent without reading and writing? And yeah, without writing you can, but without reading you can. We're like, oh, some people are like, yeah, you can speak Chinese, Korean, Japanese, or like whatever. But can you write them? Can you write them? Guess what? You cannot write them. Yeah, it's like, dude, I can't write them. Chill out, dude. Like I teach writing and I can write Japanese, Korean, and Korean is like the easiest thing to write, right? So yes, I can write Korean and Chinese and Japanese. How can you, and read of course, but how can you become native, like fluent in the language without reading? How can you become fluent without reading? How can you, let's say I made marketing in 4 languages. I can talk about supercapacitors and batteries and the difference between them in Chinese, in Korean fluently, because this is the work that I did when I worked at a Korean company for a couple of years. I can do foreign trade in Chinese, in Korean, in Russian, and in English, so in 4 languages. And so basically, how can I achieve this kind of level in vocabulary and knowledge without reading? However, one exception, guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be like offensive or something. There is one exception. That you can become fluent, almost fluent in the language, or seemingly fluent without reading. What is the exception? Being bilingual. Like you're born with the language. You speak the language from childhood, but you didn't see how it's written or something. But even in this case, I have a lot of bilingual clients on my program. They can read mostly. So basically, yeah, even this one has limitations, but theoretically, yes, there are cases. Like I think I heard of those kind of cases, or when people can't be fluent in language without being able to read or write it, without being literate in the language. So but this one has a lot of limitations. Like fluency has different levels there, right? People are like, well, fluency is vague. Well, yeah, it's vague because you can be fluent in your day-to-day conversation, but you cannot take job interview in this language. Like for example, Korean. I was fluent in day-to-day conversation, but when it came to Korea, I was like, oh, like I couldn't understand like the professional Korean and the grammar, like multiple levels, and I had to learn it, right, the hard way. So basically, reading is, and people are like, how can I become better at speaking? And others be like, well, you just need to speak more. Well, you know what? It's just the dumbest advice, because here's the thing, you need to have a lot of input, not only output. Speaking is just an output, right? You need to be good at listening, at reading. People are like, well, I'm good at listening, but I can't speak. I'm like, are you actually good at listening? Can you deconstruct, write down, and explain the grammar and vocabulary in a sentence that you hear? Is your listening good till this point? If you can do that, well, you're very good, and you might be also good at speaking as well. So basically, this is the most important thing, right? So being good at listening, being good at reading, and being good at writing essays is the kind of the step to becoming fluent in speaking as well. So don't think that, oh, I want to become good in speaking, so I don't need to do anything else except for speaking. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So all right, so basically two things just to wrap up what we just studied. So the first thing is radicals, right? 214 radicals. The second thing is, I think I look kind of weird, man. I don't know. It's like it's horizontal screen. I don't know. It looks kind of weird. So the first thing is radicals. The second thing is you need to translate each character in a word. There are most Chinese words consist of 2 characters actually, right? 2. Sometimes they consist of 3 characters, but mostly it's 2 characters, and you need to translate each character in the word. So for example, 汽车 it means car in Chinese. 汽 it means gas, and 车 it means car, right? There's so just so many examples, like thousands of words you can say. Like you can translate each character it will be so much easier to memorize. Don't just cram like in school system. They make you cram vocabulary list without actually understanding it. So 2 steps, right? We went through. What is the third step? Third step, I call it context learning, context-based learning. I don't have space here, I think, but let me actually write it like this. So let me write like 3. I call this context. So this step is called context and then learning, context learning. What is the opposite of context learning? Who knows? Who can give me the examples in the chat of the learning? This one, by the way, for those of you who learn other languages, applicable to other languages. So first 2 steps were less applicable. They were applicable to Korean and Japanese, but that one is actually applicable to any other language. Doesn't matter what you're learning. Spanish, German, Russian, English, like no matter what you learn, this one is the best thing. So context learning, what does it mean? Who can give me examples of context learning and the opposite example, like let's say non-context learning, quote unquote. So what are the best examples that you can give me, guys? Actually, in 15 minutes, I have to close up. I have to go snowboarding. So let me know. It's the final step. Is the final step. If you didn't check out my program, click the link somewhere in the description once again. It's below this video, below this live stream, whether you watch it on repeat or right now. Register, go to the page, and if there are spots left, you can enroll in my 6-month Zero to Conversational Chinese coaching, where I bring people from complete zero, knowing nothing, to speaking for hours in Chinese. If you want to join my successful clients, click the link down below, go to that page. We actually have clients from all around the world, even from Russia. So I have a lot of people. Somebody, oh, Ray, how's it going? So let me know, guys. Let me know, what is the third most important thing? Opposite example to context learning is app like Duolingo. Good example, good example. So yes. All right, so basically, the most important thing that you need to do is learn words and characters in context. The opposite of that would be the vocabulary. I have a vocabulary book here, I don't remember. But there is a series of books, not series of books, but like, basically people are like, well, you need to just memorize 2,000 words in this language and then you start speaking. This is the worst thing that you can believe in when it comes to learning Chinese or any other language. So first of all, vocabulary lists don't work unless you create them. So for example, you saw some word that you don't know in some kind of context and you write down this word in your vocabulary bank. This one works, but if you buy the list, if you download the list, if you just use the like, let's say 1,000 words in Chinese or like 100, like thousands most useful words in Chinese, those things don't work because even if they give you a few sentences with the example for this word, where this word is used, it's still not enough context for you. It's not enough story. I used to say the word, it means, it's context learning. So I used to say the word, the phrase, which is like, you don't memorize the word, you memorize the situation. You don't memorize a word, you memorize a story, right? You don't memorize a word, you memorize a story. So let's say there is an example, you go out with your friends and like, let's say you speak Chinese pretty well, I mean conversationally, let's say, then your friend says some word to you that you don't know this word, and then he shows you the translation and he starts using this word like and telling you some story. Well, there is a 100% probability that you will remember this word from the first glance and you will remember it for the rest of your life. Imagine this happening to 5,000 Chinese words to you, right? And imagine that you just see this word in a list, just like randomly in a list, situation B, right? Well, you'll never memorize it because it's in the list. There is no story, there is no context, there is no emotion, right? So context learning is the best thing. Don't use, I don't never recommend using Anki cards unless you create your own vocabulary list from the text spoke, from the place where you know, basically, you know the place where those words were mentioned, so you memorized it and so on and so forth. So this is the best thing when you remember the context and you just created this word to be as a part of your list. Basically, you added this word to your list, whether it's Anki cards or Excel spreadsheet or anything like, or just like a written list, right? So like I said, Anki doesn't work if you just download it and you don't see any context behind those words in your learning when you learn something. So if you download the list, it's not good. But if you actually, let's say, saw this word in a text or in some situation or in some movie, and then you take this word from there, you know how it was used and what context it was in, and then you put it in your vocabulary list, this is when it works. Kind of subtle, right? Kind of subtle. Do you know about Hazig method? I don't know. Yeah, so basically there are a lot of fancy methods these days, and most of them are really, I'm not very optimistic about them. So because the most important principle is that the context, right? So the context and the smart learning, the understanding of the language. If some method is along those principles that I've mentioned here, I think this method is good. If not, I mean, it's just, if it's some random thing. But yeah, anyways, so vocabulary lists that you download, you buy, you see, that don't work. Cramming doesn't work. Just trying to force yourself to memorize the word doesn't work. What does work? Let me tell you some crazy thing that probably some people will be shocked with. It's easier to memorize 30 words than one word sometimes. Again, it's easier to memorize 30 words than one word. Let me add once again. It's easier to memorize 30 words plus 10 grammar patterns than to memorize one word. What am I trying to say? Well, it's easier to memorize those words and the grammar patterns and the phrases because It's easier to memorize the text, the story, the dialogue where this one word is used, and it's easier to memorize this whole thing rather than just one individual separated word that you don't know, you know nothing about except for translation in one example sentence. So it's easier to memorize multiple words in a story and like the context and everything than to memorize one word, which you force into yourself if it's in the vocabulary list. I do 500,000 most common phrases and most common words in the language using Anki. What do you think? So Nabal, I think it's not the most effective way to start speaking the language because it can prime you. Everything works. It's not that like this will work, but it will be very slow for you. It will be very slow. I'm talking about accelerate, like speed learning. Textbook with dialogues, with updated textbooks with dialogues with text, they work much better than any kind of list of phrases. The slowest way to learn is to use lists. It's not that they completely don't work, but they will work in the slowest way possible. Like if you, it will take you like years and years and years and years. It's crazy. So everything in the language works, even like in dumb vocabulary lists with no context. Even they could potentially work, but it's the slowest way. Don't think I'm dogmatic, but it's really the slowest way. Let me see. I just learned little bit Japanese words. Raibu hashine. Okay, so yeah, so so basically 3 steps to decode, deconstruct, and memorize thousands of words in Chinese. 2 steps are unique to Chinese language. 3rd step is universal. Oh, sorry. Yeah, basically universal for every language. So the 2 steps are unique. So the first step is memorize 214 Chinese radicals. Same for Japanese. By the way, same for Japanese. I'm not fluent in Japanese, so this is why I'm not like, hey, I'll tell you. But this is the same thing pretty much. I'm doing, every week I'm doing 3-hour Japanese immersion right now. I think, in my opinion, Hangul is easier to write and read. Easier to write, definitely. Easier to read, yes. Kind of arguable because it's very long, right? They have long words. So longer words, I think. I mean, yeah, it's kind of arguable. Yeah, it's easier to write and read as a beginner, but once you progress, you'll realize that characters are actually very easy in expressing their meaning. I'm, like I said, like I'm doing 3-hour Japanese immersion every Saturday, and when teacher writes some, she's like, oh, it's an advanced word in Japanese, and I understand it, but I don't know how it's pronounced, but I understand it. The reason is that because of characters. I know thousands of characters in Chinese. That's why I know the meaning of Japanese characters. Things that helped was just wondering because I use the same format for med school on Anki, and that has been amazing. Well, Nathan, so I think it's, sorry, Nabil, I would recommend you to learn with textbooks, my friend. Really, like the languages, lists, kind of slow. In your medical school, it could have helped you because there could be some context to what you were learning, you know? You should always see like the behind the scenes which is happening, because I mean, if you take a list of words and this list of words is from the series of textbooks that you're learning with, I mean, well, you'll see those words in those textbooks and the list will actually boost you like crazy. But if you just take the list and there is nothing behind this list, no context, no application, no text, no story, no exercises, no exercises, actually, exercises are extremely important. Well, it will take you like forever. It will take you forever to the point that some lists they actually bring you nowhere, guys. I'm not kidding. I was using 2,000 most frequently used words in intermediate Korean, Japanese. I was trying to use it. First of all, it's boring as hell. Like it's so boring. Those vocabulary lists you normally don't go through the first 100 pages or something. So yeah. All right, guys. So 3 hacks to mastering Chinese. Check out my Chinese group coaching. The link is down below. It's a 6-month program. We go from 0 to conversational. There are pre-recorded lessons. There are already lessons pre-recorded for the first 3 months, so you can start learning right now, even before the coaching starts. We have different time slots. Some people are like, well, I'm in this country and that. So we have different time slots for different time zones. Normally it's for EST or for European time, so it depends on where you are. But yeah, check out the description, try to apply, use the link below, go to that page. Because what I'm telling you here, it's a very good foundation. I'm doing this live stream because so many people, they just know me only from the flashy videos. This one is for people who are actually serious about learning Chinese. It's not for everybody. This is for winners, man. Like this thing, these 3 steps that I gave you, basically it's for winners. Somebody asked, will be something in Russian? So I have a Russian YouTube channel which is called Victor Sazonov in Russian. There are tens of videos there. There is a Russian course on how to learn, right? So I have a course in Russian, so you can check it out. It's called 12 Secrets. So, but you can search on YouTube Victor Sazonov in Russian, and you'll find it. All right. So, don't. Some Russian listeners will be like, well, why don't you speak Russian? Well, this is this is a channel in English. Although it has a lot of Russian viewers, I have a separate Russian channel with 2,000 subscribers. Please go there. And please consume the content there, I guess, if you cannot understand what I'm saying. So yeah, this is kind of it, guys. I need to go snowboarding now. I need to go out right now. Thank you so much for joining. Enroll to my group coaching, apply. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.